You are not you. You are not your body. You are not your thoughts, not your beliefs, not your relationships, nor are you your actions. You are not your failures, and you are not your successes. You are not you. Everything that you think is you is not you. Everything that you hold to as a way of defining and explaining life to yourself is not you. The reality of the world as you perceive it and attempt to solidify an identity within isn't you. And the list goes on. Because there's so much that we do in trying to create an identity, people in fact go on journeys hoping to find themselves. They run to love. They run from it. They run to happiness. They run from it. They run from pain and misery and sadness and despair, and they run into it. All in the attempt to actually answer that age-old question, who am I? So many will try to answer this question with what they know and what they believe. And maybe you've done the same thing. Maybe you've come to believe the stories you tell about yourself, come to associate this experience of life with an identity of it. And maybe you don't truly know who you are at all. Most people don't. Because the question itself begs the idea that there is something or someone for you to be that is different from everything else. Because it feels obvious to say you are not the floor or the house or the ground. It feels obvious to say that you are not your pet or your mother or your father or your brothers or sisters or your friends. It feels obvious to say a lot of things. And yet, in that obviousness lies a quiet deceit, a mistaken understanding of what it is you truly are, and what separate truly is. The idea of separation is an illusion. It is brought on by the way in which our minds perceive reality, for which then we can experience the world and interact with it. This sense of self is a tool, and was only ever meant to be a tool. It was a consequence of the universe taking form and becoming alive. For what we are is no different and no separate from anything that is. Energy turned to atoms collected together to take on form and shape. Electrons moving at the speed of light, building brains that process the photons and relay a reality to us that we all seemingly agree on. But the more we begin to learn, the closer we begin to look, the more we begin to realize that this is all just a story of the mind, that what we are is quadrillions of atoms, largely empty space, that all that we are is constantly shedding and reforming, that all the atoms that make us up are completely different within 12 to 18 months. So this physical form that we often cling to and hold as us isn't what we are. This expression of the form can change and alter, and yet there will still be you. We could go through the entire list of things that so many people hold on to and grasp onto as being them. At the end of the day, you are still you, regardless of what happens to the mind, body, or your life. But what is that you? What is it that exists beyond this immediate existence? What is it that formed you? What is it that makes you? If so flawlessly your atoms flow in and out of your system, if the universe is constantly giving and taking to you and everyone else, from what are you separate from? And if you're not separate from the universe, and no one is, then what are you? What is there? What is there but oneness? A non-separate and non-dual existence, true oneness, and infinite. Everything that is, was, and will be, that which is impossible to speak of, because the mind cannot comprehend it, for words are dualistic, definitions are dualistic, and the fact that you are already it means there's nothing for the mind to perceive except itself. But just as you can't bite your own teeth, your mind can't perceive of what it ultimately is, as it uses opposites to make sense of the world, from light and dark to good and evil, right and wrong, left and right, front and back. That for the brain to perceive oneness or infinity, it would need to perceive of nothing and everything, which only serves to create another duality. This is why for so many people they never truly do understand what oneness is. It's why life feels so burdensome and challenging and difficult and painful. It's why people suffer the life they live. Because to truly understand oneness is to let go of everything, including your very thoughts and understanding. To let go of everything that you are. To even let go of the very desire to know or experience something or anything. Over time and over history, people who have achieved this state have been called enlightened or awakened. And much is made about these words. That it's easy to think of it as something different from what already is, something different than this. But in that, It's again putting the mind ahead of the truth, the desire to know and experience ahead of just being what is. For that is what enlightenment ultimately is. The experience of this moment, this now, in the fullest and most purest sense, with no thought and no comprehension, surrendering completely to the machinations of existence, letting go of all the need to judge or understand or define any of existence. It is to be fully here, and completely without a need or hint of thought. But to achieve such a state, one must take the greatest leap of faith that you can ever take. And that's trusting that everything is exactly as it should be. That's letting go of every need to judge and define the world. It's surrendering to the belief that everything you do and experience and live is exactly what is supposed to happen. It is a life in which the mind is silent. A life in which there are no mistakes, no failures, no successes. Just happening and manifesting reality. Just existence taking place. In which you never suffer because there is no you to suffer. And in that, you live fully realizing that you are perfect and complete.